Stu, I'm absolutely pulling my hair out right now. Here's what I can tell you. We can go back to the last Trump administration, the tariffs that took place. So they were put in place in 2017. And let's just use soybeans, since Illinois is the #1 producer of soybeans in the United States. 62% of U.S. soybeans exported in 2017 went to China. In 2018, 18% went to China. You know who was the benefactor of that? Brazil. 82% of their soybeans ended up going to China. If we extrapolate that out from 2017 to 2023, we had gotten back up to 55% of U.S. soybeans went to China. Never recovered from the original 62%. What we're doing is insanity from a tariff perspective to me. In talking about the Chinese market, again, soybean specific, if you combine all of the other countries in the world, what they buy in soybeans, they don't add up to the Chinese market. So you can't replace, right now, as we sit here, you can't replace the Chinese market as far as soybean exports. And if we want to talk all of agriculture, so 2017, we had 20% of China's agricultural import market. So we exported to them 20% of what they bought worldwide. That went down to 12% in 2018, excuse me. And then 2019, it went to 10%. So from 20% to 10%, cut in half. I mean, a guy who's regarded as someone who's pretty intelligent in world history, Albert Einstein, said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We've seen this play out before, and there's no reason to expect any different results than played out last time. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, under the last Trump administration, said that we lost $27 billion in agricultural exports. We did a $23.1 billion taxpayer-funded bailout of farmers at that particular time, still a net loss of $4 billion. But if you extrapolate that out farther, the U.S. Department of Agriculture will tell you for every $1 billion of exports, it creates 8,000 jobs. So if you take that 27 billion lost times 8,000, 216,000 jobs were lost because of that trade war. They would also tell you, these are U.S. Department of Agriculture numbers, for every dollar of trade, it creates $1.27 of economic activity. So even though they're saying we lost $27 billion in trade, we actually lost $34.33 billion in economic activity. It's insanity that we're at this point again.
I'm sure Illinois is known right now as #2 exporting state in the country.
Yes, sir.
You've had a trade team that's right now traipsing through Illinois that you're trying to get them interested in our products. What hopes do you have for those efforts that's going on right as we speak?
So what you're talking about is our grain tour. Our grain tours have been so successful in the state of Illinois. We've done it for 25 years in a row at Department of Agriculture, but it's been so successful we've had to split the grain tour in two. Latin America, the second one is Asia and the Middle East. Last year, our grain tour resulted in $159 million worth of sales, which is $30 million more than the year prior. So it's been very, very successful. This particular tour, there are 6 countries that are on it. China, Singapore, Egypt, Jordan, Vietnam, and the island of Mauritius which is in the East Africa. So, any business, when it comes to a customer base, there's two things you have to do. Everybody's, excited and looking forward to recruiting new business, but it's so important to maintain the current customer base that you have. So you've got recruitment, but you have to have retention as well. Having a Chinese buyer group in this mix of Asia and the Middle East right now is extremely, extremely important. We were at the Illinois Soybean Association specifically yesterday. And again, that soybean trade, last year, China bought $1.4 billion worth of soybeans from the state of Illinois. If you look at how many soybeans have been bought from the U.S. government, or U.S. Agricultural trade, zero as of today. In the last 9 months, not one soybean has been exported to China from the United States.
One of the primary economists who was at the meeting yesterday with the Chicago Fed says he is confident that some agreement will eventually come and that there will be a trade agreement with China. I think the question is, will it be soon enough to help American farmers, or is it going to be just in time for Brazil to start shipping beans after the first of the year?
So where is China buying their soybeans from right now? They're buying them from Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. Actually, about a week or two ago, China just took shipment of 4 Panamaxes from Argentina, the first time ever. And I can't mention the gentleman's name. I talked to a U.S. trade representative with U.S. Department of Agriculture a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him about where we're at, about the first Trump administration, the tariffs, if there's any reason to believe that we're going to be able to recover very quickly from the situation we're in. Again, he wanted anonymity, and so I will not mention who I talked to. He told me, Jerry, the first trade tariffs that were implemented by the administration, China was somewhat caught off guard. This time, they were prepared when the Trump administration took over, because President Trump said during his election campaign, this is what he was going to do. I don't know if everyone believed he would follow through, but here we are.
What would you like farmers to know that they can look forward to or expect, either plus or minus, as we move forward into this new marketing year for corn and beans?
So here's what I can tell you that we as a Department of Agriculture are doing, and what the Pritzker administration is doing. A couple of months ago, I was on a trade mission with Governor Pritzker to Mexico, specifically for letting the country of Mexico know the state of Illinois wants to do trade with you. We value you. We value the relationship that we have with you. We export about $3 billion worth of agricultural goods from the state of Illinois to Mexico. So in the state of Illinois, ag's about a $26.4 billion annual economic impact. $13.7 billion of that is exports. The 3 largest countries that we export to are Mexico, Canada, and China. So Mexico about 3 billion, Canada 2 to 2.5 billion depending on the year, China $1.5 billion to 2 billion depending on the year, what's going on. But those 3 countries, out of the 13.7 billion that we're talking about exporting, about 46 to 47% of our ag exports from the state of Illinois goes to those 3 countries. We're a microcosm of the U.S. About 48% of U.S. ag trade exports go to those 3 countries. What I can tell farmers in the state of Illinois is we are working to try to maintain relationships at all costs. Governor Pritzker is really working on communication, having these face-to-face missions with buyers like we just did, September 29th to October 2nd. We've got buyers that are going all across the state of Illinois. We're showing them, the lock and dam on the Mississippi River, the logistics of doing trade with the state of Illinois. We have the river system. Chicago's the rail hub of the United States. We have O'Hare, which is, the second busiest international airport in the United States. The interstate system, it all meets in the state of Illinois. As a matter of fact, anything imported or exported, not just ag, imported or exported, a quarter of it goes through the state of Illinois at some point in time. So, we're working on maintaining relationships, selling, doing business with the state of Illinois. What we can't control is federal trade policy. And I would ask farmers, producers, anybody who's concerned about the price of food going up, concerned about food insecurity, contact your federal legislator. Let them know, number one, we need a farm bill. Number two, we've got to do something about the government shutdown that we're experiencing right now. How long we're shut down, who knows? Under the last Trump administration, we had 3 government shutdowns, the most under any president. We also had the longest government shutdown, 35 days under the last administration. So this is history repeating itself. I wish in this country we could get back to what unites us, not what divides us. Agriculture is something that unites us. It shouldn't be Republican or Democrat. It should be about the security of feeding the United States and honestly the rest of the world.
Speaking of feeding the United States, the shutdown in part is not only medical, but it's also in food and in SNAP and things like that. What's your guess on people in Illinois who are hungry because of the cutbacks in what the one big bill did to the SNAP program and to various elements that put food into food banks and facilities that feed people?
As you know, and we've had this conversation before, I'm very, very concerned. There are a number of programs that we participated in which were federal pass-throughs. And honestly, they helped with getting locally grown foods to food banks. Talking about the federal shutdown we're experiencing right now, here's the one thing we know. WIC, the Women and Infant Children program, that is something that will be directly affected almost immediately. SNAP, which, those monies are helping to feed the most vulnerable people that we have in the United States. All of those programs, all of these federal programs will be affected at some point in time according to how long this lasts. What I read, so that's what I'm going by, and a lot of this is governmental information, is most of these programs have about 7 days of operating capital, so about 1 week of operating capital. After that, we get into some pretty dicey territory. I'm extremely concerned. I'll give you another scenario, FSA, Farm Service Agency. Any of the folks who have applications in, grants, what have you, all of that paperwork stops. Right. So just today, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has said, they came out and said they were going to furlough half of the employees with U.S. Department of Agriculture. What does that mean according to work being done at the U.S. Department of Agriculture? When we talk about trade, what does that mean as far as trade being negotiated and trade missions and all of those folks that do the daily in and out job? We have 433 employees here at the Department of Agriculture in the state of Illinois. Our executive team is 4 folks right here in the office, and honestly, this hallway probably about 17 people. We're support staff for those people out in the field. The ones that are out in the field, they're the ones making sure that pesticides are regulated, making sure that our food is examined, and that we can actually process at all of the different processing facilities. The folks that are out in the field doing their jobs, they're the ones that make sure agriculture is running in the state of Illinois and the United States. To furlough 50% of the employees at the U.S. Department of Agriculture on the very first day that the shutdown is commenced, I mean, it's ludicrous.
One other thing that has a lot of personal concern, the proposed transfer of the soybean research lab to Missouri and the corn research lab to Ames, Iowa from the University of Illinois. That I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And I don't know what conversations you've had that may assure farmers and the university that, hey, work is being done to make sure that doesn't happen.
So what I can tell you is we're having all of the conversations that we can possibly have. I have to give the governor a ton of credit. He talks to a lot of people. He's very proactive, a lot of contacts, and he understands what agriculture means to the state of Illinois. It is the #1 industry in the state. There are a number of different studies that would say if you incorporate the hospitality industry, restaurants, that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 jobs in this state are in some way, shape, or form ag-related. The research being done at the University of Illinois, both for, we're the #1 producer of soybeans, but we're the #2 producer of corn, #4 producer of pork, #10 producer of wheat. I mean, all of the research being done, but especially the soybean research being done, is imperative for this country. It's imperative for feeding the world. And what I hope isn't occurring is that this isn't being used as a political pawn from a blue state to a red state situation, because that's unfair to the people of the United States, to the state of Illinois, but to the people of the United States, the producers who are benefiting from what's being done at the University of Illinois.
Very much.